We've come to the end of our New South Wales tour, and what a glorious day and glorious way to end it. I'm Madeleine, this is the Cellar Door Australia. It's my last day here in the Hunter Valley, and what better way to cap it off than a visit to Tintilla, a boutique family-run winery and olive grove in Colburn. There are plenty of great varieties in the Hunter Valley. It's Shiraz and Semillon that are the most iconic here. First up, I'm meeting winemaker James in the vines to find out why this region is so iconic for Shiraz and Semillon. Well, James, this is gorgeous here. Can you tell me about what you're growing?
So this particular block here is our Shiraz block, and it's a very vigorous block, as you can see. We actually have to go through and hedge it back, so you'll see here we've actually cut this bit, because otherwise they end up trying to touch each other. Which makes it very tricky for when you're doing the tractoring and stuff. We've been really lucky, obviously, this year. We've had quite a bit of rain compared to the last couple of years, where it's been a bit on the drier side.
It's early summer.
Yes.
So what are you looking for in the grapes right now?
Well, at the moment, obviously, we've gone from flowering, so that flowering's all over. We've now got obviously all these lovely sort of bunches, probably slightly bigger than what you call pea size. Next stage after this is what's called veraison. This is actually an interesting time of the year for them because they're quite protected at the moment. At this stage, they're quite hardy, but once they go for that next stage, that veraison stage, when they start to soften up, that's when you can have some issues because they're more susceptible to disease and stuff. So that's when you don't want those heavy rainfalls and what have you, and you want lots of sunshine. But obviously at the moment they're looking all nice and healthy. We've had a little bit of rain, which is great. You know, the vines, it's surprising how much water helps vines. Like all plants, they like a little bit of water to keep them going. So
they're all looking so healthy, I can see, so just looking down the line.
Yeah, I think we're, fingers crossed, things are looking like we're going to have a nice season on our hands again.
When would be the ideal time for you to harvest?
Okay, so
how far away is that one?
Yeah, so Shiraz we normally pick around about that sort of first week of February. We have picked earlier in the really dry years, of course, but the normal time is that sort of first week of Feb. And we do our whites a little bit earlier, obviously. They're more sort of January.
And can you tell me about how you chose and settled on these varieties?
Well, obviously Shiraz is king. Hunter Valley is well known for Shiraz as well, of course. So that was a no-brainer. Semillon as our main white variety locally, and makes a fantastic dry white. Merlot, because I think it's good for blending. That's kind of what we planted it for. It makes a lovely wine on its own. I actually think Hunter Merlot's fantastic. It's a little drier than Shiraz is, but it's just a lovely wine. And then we've obviously got our Sangiovese, which is our Italian variety, and we were the first to plant that locally, so we're quite passionate about that. It's great for rosés as well, makes some really nice rosés with that, and obviously more traditional straight red. And the blends, we do that one as well. That's what we use the Merlot for.
So it sounds like you were influenced by the local surroundings as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you sort of, you look at what's happening locally and you go, okay, well these are natural fits, and then you want something, I think, ideally a little bit different, and that's why we went with the Sangiovese.
And bringing something new into the region too.
Exactly.
That's exciting.
Yeah, no, I think so.
And how large are we looking? Because it looks like it goes on forever. It's so
gorgeous.
I
know, it's a bit deceptive, our block, because it's very narrow and very long, and then we're sort of hemmed in by the natural gums. It's only a 25-acre block. We've got about 17 acres of it actually on the vine, and then we've also obviously got the olives as well. So we've got about 450 olive trees, sort of spread out over the property. So where we couldn't put vines, we put olives.
Nice. like you're thinking.
Yeah, that's it. You got to use it. You got to diversify. It's farming. You got to have something else to do. Keeps you busy.
Speaking of which, let's kick things off with some olives, shall we? This looks very impressive.
Yeah, a little tasting.
Yeah.
You know, this is what you come here for.
Yes. And talk me through these olives.
The Manzanello's here, the Fanto's in the middle. We also have Calamatas here, but that's done with a bit of chili, so that's why there's a nice bit of chili
to
on top
indicate.
there. And then we have 2 local oils, both extra virgin olive oils, which are very nice. And then we also make an olive tamponade, olive paste. So they're all very tasty. That's obviously the sweetness that they get, and the salt, obviously, which is what olives are. With the frantoios, it's a very nuttiness about it, which is quite different to your more traditional olives. Which I
This
really
is
like as well.
great.
You know, they're lovely little things.
Bursting with flavour.
Yeah, and they do go so well with obviously with the wine.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is going to be a bit nuttier.
Yeah, it's just got a little nuttier. Obviously they're not pitted, so they've still got their seeds. But the reason for that is that they actually go through a fermentation. So that's part of the processing. It's the traditional method that we use. So they go into a salted brine, and then they ferment for about a month. And then we mature them for about at least 6 months before we start serving them. And then we put a little bit of lemon, garlic and oregano with them, so you'll obviously see little hints of that stuff in there as well.
Definitely, yeah, definitely now you've said that as well. It's like, I knew it was in there.
Yeah.
That's, and that is much nuttier.
Yeah,
of a taste.
yeah, it's quite different. And it is traditionally more a oil olive, but we really like it and it works really well.
Now this is the mixed olives.
So that's a mix. So, and the big difference obviously is that little bit of chili, but chili's a good thing.
Chili's always a good thing.
Yeah, and I actually didn't really like olives when I first started.
Oh,
working
really?
here. Yeah, when I was first doing it, but that's how I got into olives, was the chili. Yeah, now I love olives.
So this is a good starting point for people that are a bit on the fence.
Because that chili hides and it's moorish.
Oh, that's really good.
You know, chili's great in everything. You know, a little bit in pasta dishes is always very nice, but you just need little bits. You don't need to burn your mouth out.
It's almost like the end flavours
Exactly.
brings it out a little bit. It kind of enhances the olive.
Yeah, for sure.
That's delicious.
We've got 2 different olive oils, both local, both extra virgin.
So fresh.
Fresh. That's, I think, people don't understand about olive oil is it needs to actually be fresh. It shouldn't really be much more than a year old. And a lot of people buy imported olive oils and they're actually over a year old and they've really lost all their refinement. They're still fine and they're tasty and all the rest, but there's a big difference between a fresh, young extra virgin olive oil compared to an old one that's been on a ship coming out here. The local olive oils are fantastic. Traditionally, tamponades are normally made with just black olives, but we have both, so we tend to use both. Obviously, it's anchovies, capers, Dijon mustard, garlic, lemon, a little splash of Merlot, just for something a bit different, and Dijon, which is a bit unusual. And that Dijon adds a sweetness that you don't normally get in a tamponade, but it's really nice.
And it's all fitting in this little cracker.
And it's great. You can just put it through pasta, or obviously on a nice piece of of bread and crackers.
That's really tasty.
Yeah.
It's probably the tastiest I've
and
ever
it's
had.
actually really nice with the steak as well.
I can see that.
So
It would really bring out those meat flavours too, like the red meat.
It's just a really good foodie thing.
Oh, I think that's got to be a new staple of mine now.
Sounds good to me.
Stay tuned. We'll be back after the break. While South Australia is traditionally known as Australia's Shiraz capital, the Hunter offers its own unique take on the variety.
So we're in the Hunter region.
Yes.
So what makes a Hunter Shiraz, in your opinion?
They're a little bit lighter than some of the cooler climate sort of styles. Not quite as high alcohol, so normally a little bit lower, which I think is good, particularly if you want to have a few glasses. You don't want those, the alcohol to be up that high. It sort of knocks you over a bit. So a little bit more approachable, I think, as well. And they age really well. Obviously, flavour spectrums, obviously you get those lovely sort of spicy hints of mint, dark berry flavours, fruits of the forest, I suppose, are always sort of your classic sort of lines. And then obviously you got some nice oak in the wine, I should say. You then get those lovely sort of chocolates and caramels and vanilla characters coming in from the oak. So overall, just a lovely mouthfeel, and Shiraz always has a natural sweetness about it, and I think that's why everyone likes it. Even though it's not necessarily sugar sweet, it just has a nose that sort of tricks you. It's flavours that people can recognise, and I think people don't want to get caught out not knowing what they're doing, and a Shiraz is so readily available, and so overall, I think Shiraz, you can tell a Shiraz when you get a Shiraz.
On that note, let's have a taste, shall we? How about one straight from the barrel?
So we're amongst these incredible barrels. What are we standing in front of here?
So this is one of our Shirazes from this past vintage, 2021. So I thought we'd have a little sneak peek. Obviously not quite finished yet. Probably got another sort of 3 or 4 months at least before we start looking at bottling this.
Okay.
But it's it's a good example of what we've got coming. So so this is a 2021 Shiraz barrel that we have to have a little sample of. Like I said, a little bit early days still for this particular one, but it's getting there. Let me have a little look-see at it. Hopefully, you should see all those basic backbones of a Shiraz. So that lovely sweet fruit, like I said before, dark berries, sort of raspberries, blueberries, those types of things. Love a little bit of spice in there as well, of course. Little hints of mint, and then obviously you will see a bit of oak as well, so that gives you that lovely sort of caramel, chocolatey character as well for the wine. This is not a new barrel, but there's still a nice little bit of taste, oak taste left in it still, which is great. Time for sipping.
I know.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers. That is really nice.
So like I said, you can see that it's got that sweetness. Like this should have very little sugar in it, left over from the ferment, of course.
Wow.
But it just has that sweetness about it, which is what I think everyone likes about Shiraz.
Yeah.
You're gonna get that lovely sort of dark berry flavours, lovely richness about it. I think I'm looking forward to these wines. I think they're going to be good.
So when will people be able to get their hands on a bottle?
A bottle of this,
Yeah.
Depending on what's going on, it's probably not going to be till at least the end of 22, maybe early 23. It's sort of one of those sort of things. Tend to like to leave them in bottle for at least 6 months if I can, just because I think they mature a little bit more.
Yeah.
A little bit of time in bottle is always a good thing. I think, particularly Hunter Shiraz, I think they really do appreciate a little bit of bottle aging. Obviously, people can't do too much of that nowadays. People tend to be very buy now and drink now.
Yeah.
But if you can, a little bit of bottle age always helps. Particularly, I think a Hunter Shiraz.
Definitely. Your patience will pay off.
That's exactly right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And because we've got some lovely oak barrels in here. They're particularly some of the French barrels that I like to use. Particularly with my Shiraz again, I tend to like to use slightly bigger barrels. So this is actually a small one. This is only a 225 barrel. But I tend to actually like to use a slightly bigger one, which is 400 litre barrels, which is a bit of a funny size. Most people tend to use 300s or 500s, but the 400s I find is a nice balance between the two. And some lovely sort of French barrels that really work really nicely with Shiraz.
Oh, lovely.
It's great getting this insight into the subjective nature of making wine. After the fruit's picked, so much comes down to the art of blending and aging.
Well, I think it's looking at each individual barrel because you can really see some distinctive characteristics, particularly when they're new. Obviously, they all have their own little nuances. But even with an older barrel like this particular one here, they all look different, and it's great because you line them all up and you get to taste them all. I do that once a month, which is a hard job.
Someone's got to do it.
Someone's got to do it, and by doing that, you really stay on top of it, and and you can decide when and if it's ready for bottling. So, for example, this year I bottled my Cabernet Merlot earlier than I would normally because I thought it was ready. It's a wine that could go now, where normally I might do 12 months for my Cabernet Merlot. This year I did 10 months.
Okay.
So just one of those sort of things, and that's why you're constantly looking at the barrels to make sure you don't want to miss that opportunity. You go, okay, well this might be where it is, and you can get it out to market as quickly as you can.
Quite an art form.
Yeah, I mean that's the skill of winemaking is actually this side of it. Making wine isn't actually that hard itself, but it's the blending, the final blending, and knowing what you want, and then deciding what flavours are working for you. The best thing about this job is that you can come to this point.
Yeah. Sit back and take a sip
and
with
enjoy,
all your hard
work.
work.
That's exactly it. You sit back and you think about the weather you had that year, and you go, it's all encapsulated in this glass in front of you.
Beautiful. Well, I might just enjoy your hard work right now.
Sounds good. Cheers.
Cheers. Very good.
Well, I don't know how we're going to top that, but we'll give it a try. See you after the break. Next, a chat with James out in the idyllic garden with a beautiful Sangiovese.
So you put on a pretty perfect day for us here at Tintilla.
Very lucky. The weather is really turning on today, thankfully.
Thank you. Can you explain how you came up with the name Tintilla?
So Tintilla was a popular wine style, similar to what Claret, but rather than being from Bordeaux, it's from Spain and Portugal. As far as I know, there's no one really making that style anymore, but it was a red. Tinta is Latin for red, so...
And what about your logo?
Yeah, so the logo is a Dionysian figurine.
For those not well versed in the Greco-Roman gods, Dionysus is the god of fruitfulness and vegetation, and, of course, wine.
Originally it actually had a discus, but we changed it to a bunch of grapes in its hand just to make it a bit more winey.
Lovely. And what sparked your interest in wine to begin with?
Well, I think we were always, Dad and Mum were always more of wine drinkers, not beer drinkers. Dad was always, being a surgeon, he knew he couldn't do that forever. So he wanted to have something to do, and so he decided that he thought, having a winery would be a good option. It started out as a hobby and very quickly became a job for everybody.
Yeah, and how many siblings do you have?
I've got 3, so I've got 2 brothers and a sister.
Lovely, yeah, and you all pitch in. So that sense of family has really infused your business as well?
Yeah, that's it. It's it makes it very personal. I always knew I wanted to do something on the land, and so this is great for me. And obviously everyone else gets involved as well. My 2 brothers and my sister, they all come and help. One of my brothers does the shop, he runs our shop, so sells all for us. And the others come in and help whenever we need them. And particularly like harvest time, when you really need all hands on deck, they come up and they drive tractors, they help harvest, they pick the grapes and stuff. So it works really well.
So it looks like you try and pass that on to your patrons and visitors that come, that sense of family and personal experience.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I think you come to a small boutique style winery, because it's personal, and you're often meeting the people that are making it or planted the vines or whatever it is.
You get to hear the full experience and kind of feel a bit involved in what you're drinking.
Definitely.
Speaking of...
Should we try some?
I think so.
So this is our Sangiovese Rosé. This is the wine we call Rosata de Jupiter. And it's just a lovely summer wine, perfect for a day like today. Sitting back and relaxing, nice light lunch, and you can't really go wrong with it.
Yeah, that looks so lovely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's got those lovely strawberry, watermelon notes on the nose.
Definitely. And such a perfect day like today. Ideal.
Yeah. Lovely, a little bit of sweetness, but a nice dry finish to the wine.
Oh yeah.
This is just really refreshing.
It is really refreshing.
And nice and cold. You really can't beat something like this on a hot summer's day. I
Cooling.
reckon. Yeah, exactly, for sure. So we obviously planted Sangiovese. We were one of the first to plant that in the valley, so it's our sort of point of difference.
Yeah.
And so we're very proud about the styles that we do with this, and we do a couple of different options.
And how did you come up with the idea to plant it?
Similar climate, although obviously we get a bit hotter than they do in Tuscany, but that sort of coastal influence. And it makes lovely rosés and obviously reds as well. There's something about Italian wine varieties that they just work well with food, which is great.
And speaking of food, you do have a lot of olives here. Got the best of both worlds here.
It is, yeah. Well, I think it's the ancient Greeks said you're not cultured unless you grow vines and olives.
Oh, see?
That was what they thought, so
See,
I reckon it can't be wrong.
Following history, you can't be wrong.
That's it, yeah.
Olives, red wine, Roman goddesses. It's a little slice of the Mediterranean. Australian style. Time to head up to the deck for a final tasting. First up, the classic Hunter Valley wine, Semillon.
Obviously, Semillon's a main white variety from the Hunter Valley. It's our sort of icon wine as such. And then this is from 2021, so this is about as fresh as you get it. Semillon is made as a tank ferment wine, so there's generally speaking no oak in Semillon from the Hunter. Other parts of Australia they do oak it, but we don't, we do just tank ferments. And so what we're looking for is lovely, fresh, clean flavours, citrus lime backbone to the wines. And then I think this particular vintage we've got lovely, slightly herby, almost like thistly sort of notes.
Oh yeah.
Which are really nice, really fresh, and obviously a very clear, crisp style. And seafood is its perfect match.
Oh yeah.
Oysters, if you can.
Oysters. Oh yes.
Yeah, that's kind of where the money is.
Ooh, that smells so good.
But they're lovely, fresh, clean. Obviously a dry wine, but it just is a light, refreshing, and on a day like today, it's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. It's perfect for an Aussie Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah, good summer wine. Very good summer wine.
Beautiful. It's No, is
like
it one of your favourites?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's sort of the pinnacle. Interestingly, it's a style that ages really well. and it changes quite a lot, and it goes away from this lovely sort of very fresh, clean citrus characters. They're still there, but you start to see this almost like oakiness in the wine, like a sort of a creamy, buttery character comes into the wine. It's quite interesting. It's just one of those sort of things that as it ages in the bottle, it gets these characters coming through.
Wow.
And that's kind of the beauty of aged wines.
Yeah, and where it can progress from here and where
Definitely,
it ends up.
and it's interesting because you'll find people who don't like the sort of lean style like this, they will like that style.
And now to try the Shiraz, the finished product that is.
So this, which is a 2021, this is our current releases. So this is 2019, our drought year. Really, for us, this is about as big as I've ever got my reds. Really full, intense style. Again, obviously all those lovely sort of spicy, minty characteristics, dark berry flavours, a lovely almost inkiness about it. And again, Shiraz always has that natural sweetness, which I think's the reason why it's so popular.
I'm so curious to taste this since I've tasted the barrel.
The barrel there, for sure.
Yeah.
And the lovely richness from the barrels as well. You can really see that sort of charry, oaky character coming in, that sort of chocolate and caramel characters coming into the wine.
Yeah, those caramels and chocolates.
And a lovely, rich, full mouth.
Yeah, I definitely, it's a beautiful, bold flavour.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, we're really happy with this one.
Yeah.
It was a good vintage.
So the first time you got it this big, you were saying?
Yes, normally Hunter Shirazes can be a medium to heavy red, I suppose. This is more on the sort of heavy end of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what would you recommend to people to pair this with food?
Yeah, look, I think you really can't go past that steak option. That's, any good red meat. That's kind of what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what it works for.
Yep. It's gorgeous. Well, I am very much enjoying my class. Thank you so much for walking me through all the beautiful products you have here. And thank you again for showing me around on such a beautiful day. I've had a lovely day.
Great, thanks for coming. We really enjoyed it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I've had a wonderful time here in the Hunter, from the cider to the wine and everything in between. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time on the Cellar Door.